All right, so it's Monday after. If you're a Texas A&M fan, let's unpack the path forward here for your Aggies. Because I know it hurts. It was embarrassing in a lot of ways, but I don't think that you just pack it up. I mean, you're still first in the SEC, or tied for first, rather, still control your own destiny. So what's the path forward here? What needs to be the focus if you're a Texas A&M fan? We'll talk about it right now. One, make sure you're subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. I just mentioned your Aggies got a lot in front of them, so make sure you're dialed in. We'll unpack it together. Also, make sure you're following me on Instagram and on Twitter at PicKell. Want to hear from y'all there. Appreciate you in advance. So, the game itself, like I mentioned, embarrassing, tough, just there was a lot about this game that you just would like to hit the reset button on and kind of just delete from the memory. I think that final score, with it being, 44-20, I think that was a lot more lopsided on the box score than it actually was in the game. Because you watch this game, man, I mean, A&M, they're back and forth. Felt like at one point in time you're going to go into the half up a score. Didn't end up going that way. So while it was embarrassing, I think the loss in itself, just to look backwards before we look forward, I think it was unique in a lot of ways. Like the path ahead here for A&M, you have a bye, so you get healthy. You hope and pray Le'Veon Moss gets healthy and he's able to rock and roll when you play those more meaningful football games down the stretch. Then you play New Mexico State. Now, you don't want to overlook New Mexico State. Ask Auburn about that. However, you feel good about your chances to win that one. Then you go to Auburn. Now, the Auburn game, because you already lost one on the road and because of where Auburn's at right now, I think you feel pretty cautiously optimistic about that one. And then obviously you have the one that we have all had circled since SEC Media Days, and that is the game with Texas coming to College Station. So the path ahead of you here is pretty manageable. But I unpack that path a little bit because in respect to the South Carolina game, South Carolina presented a lot of unique challenges that just quite frankly, none of those teams, including Texas, will present for you. Like, I mean, the story of the game to me as I'm sitting at home watching that thing is Lenoris Sellers, all 6'3", 240 pounds of him, avoiding sack after sack. I mean, Texas A&M has made their money getting after the quarterback this year. They had 0 sacks in Columbia on Saturday night. Why? Not because they didn't get home, because they didn't finish the trip. And I don't know that it was a thing where, obviously you watch the tape and you own your part and you say, hey, we got to tackle better. That is 100% the case. 100% the case. Do not misunderstand me. But we all understand now. Getting home and bringing to the ground a Peyton Thorne and or a Quinn Ewers will be a much more manageable task than trying to bring to the ground a 6'3", 240-plus pound Lenoris Sellers. Like, I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just saying, while that sucks and that hurts and you wish that didn't happen, it's not a situation that I foresee A&M continuing to struggle with when it comes to bringing the quarterback to the ground once you do get home. Now, the other thing I would say, the just overall havoc wreakers that South Carolina brought to the table there with Dylan Stewart and Kennard, it is what it is. And Marcel Reed did a great job, different points throughout this game, avoiding pressure. But, I don't think you're going to see any other players the rest of the way until you get to the college football playoff, that would give you the same kind of concern. Now, that's not to say anything of who Texas has up front. I'm just telling you, Dylan Stewart, what he is as a true freshman, he is an Avenger. Like South Carolina going into this game now, I think we all thought they were really, really freakish. We had that verified coming out of this game. A lot of people, I think, and this is probably I think it's a smaller percentage of the Texas A&M fan base, but toxic nonetheless. Whenever something doesn't go right, we love to look at things in hindsight and then make judgment calls about what should have happened differently. And a lot of people today, I would have to believe, or a percentage of the fan base today will have to be saying, well, hey, Connor Wegman, if he plays, is that game different? My answer here is no. My answer is absolutely not. And again, this is not me dunking on Connor Wegman. I think Connor Wegman's a good quarterback. But you look at what happened last night, or Saturday night rather, Connor Wegman doesn't give you a better chance to avoid pressure there. Connor Wegman isn't the guy that's going to elevate the offense. Marcel Reed is still your guy. I think also that spot for Marcel Reed, again, I'm not making excuses, just adding context here. The game at Florida in daylight with a rainy atmosphere with what Florida was, that's a different spot on the road while the swamp is still the swamp than playing at Williams-Brice at night with that place on fire. You hear what I'm saying? I think we need to allow still some growth to happen here for Marcel Reed as the guy at Texas A&M. One more thing I'll add here. Again, I mentioned this before. You have some time here for him to totally get right, but Le'Veon Moss not being in that football game changed the complexion of what you are offensively. Hear me clearly. He is the guy for you on offense. He is a big reason why I think Marcel Reed at quarterback elevates everyone around him, but especially Le'Veon Moss. And so not having your best offensive player for the duration of the football game, yeah, that's going to impact the final score. And so if he's ready to roll here for Auburn and for Texas, I think you feel pretty optimistic about your chances to have a much better showing in both those football games. So I'll also say this, because I don't want to excuse what happened Saturday night. I don't think you should, but I do think viewing it through the proper context, there is really a lot of reason for confidence here going forward. Like I mentioned, you control your SEC title destiny. By that nature, you control your college football playoff destiny. But with the opponents you have here ahead of you, if I'm Texas, I'm not necessarily worried about an A&M that we have to go to College Station and they're confident, they're riding high, they haven't really lost since the first game of the season. And I'm not saying that you feel more confident having, or less confident rather, having played a Texas A&M team that's lost 2 games. But the point I'm trying to make here is I think this loss for A&M can mean as much for them as they want it to. Whenever you get refocused, usually it's after you have a reason to look internally, or you get slapped in the face and say, hey, okay, we got to figure it out here. We got to clean up these mistakes. We got to find a way to play better football in all 3 phases and find a way to just elevate overall. Because what we did, that's not good enough. What we did during that week, not good enough. And so when you have that kind of internal dialogue now, to me, that is a more humbled A&M. That is, in theory, a more dialed-in A&M. That's the Texas A&M. If I'm Auburn or I'm Texas, I'd be more nervous to play. All right, so I think in some ways here, and again, I don't want to make light or spin a loss at all. That's not what I'm trying to do here. But I do think that conversation deserves maybe just a little bit of attention here. That could be a get-right sort of moment for Texas A&M. And the beautiful part about all this here, how much have we talked about Mike Elko and his traits and this team being a mature football team, a blue-collar football team. They're dialed in, they're locked in, all those things. Well, guess what? We get to see right now. We get to find out. Because that's great. You can be locked in after you lose the first game of the year. You switch quarterbacks, have 2 big top 10 wins. Awesome. What happens now, though, after you lose a game? Do you clean up the mistakes? Do you have the proper procedures in place to recover from a showing that you would like to have back? We get to see right now. Because if A&M is truly as far along as we believe they are, they will be, I think, a team that is a force to be reckoned with the rest of the way here. And I tell you what, man, I think they will not lose another game before they get to the game against Texas in College Station. And that game now, with the intensity being turned up on both sides, I cannot wait. Cannot wait. So I know it hurts. I know it's frustrating, but A&M fans, there's a path forward here. And I think that with the sun rising again here on a new week 11 of the college football season, there is cause for a lot of optimism. You get right during the bye. You get right during New Mexico State. You play your best football in the last 2 weeks of the season. Maybe you find yourself in Atlanta. Make sure you're subscribed. Let me know your thoughts if you're an A&M fan in the comment section below. Subscribe so we know that you're subscribed so we can see in the comment section. But we appreciate you for that, man. We love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time.